semester by asking this new group of senior and junior high school students the same probing questions. What do you want to do with your life, and how are you going to achieve it?
How are you going to get the money for Main Street?
Jim began his dialogue classes here at Northern High School last year. He now teaches in 6 Detroit high schools. He impresses the importance of education upon young people by exposing them to the cold realities of life. As part of the course, they stand in unemployment and food stamp lines and walk through supermarkets trying to make a dollar stretch. Dialogue was featured in Newsweek magazine and caught the eye of the Japanese. 2 weeks ago, this Japanese news crew arrived in Detroit to feature Jim and Dialogue in a documentary.
In Japan, high school students' violence is becoming a very big social problem. And it reflects that the Japanese high school students are confused about their goals and about their future and things like that. And it's our interest, to find out how other society, like United States, is solving this problem, how to try to cope with it.
The program featuring Jim Tooman and his dialogue program will be seen on Japanese television nationwide in October. And they say there is a good chance that some of Jim's ideas will be translated into Japanese schools. Nancy McCauley, TV2 Eyewitness News, Detroit.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't know where you're going.
These 8 young people, ages 12 to 18, are from Detroit and the suburbs, the very rich and the very poor. For the past 3 days, they have been experiencing the harsh side, the poor side of life. Together, they took the reality walk, an intense look at what life could hold for them. Jim Tooman cares deeply about young people and developed this walk as a tool to help kids handle life after graduation. The first stop was the grocery store, where they tried to buy groceries for an imaginary family of 4.
That's 20 right there for $1.98. And this is 10 for 118. That's a better buy right there.
They found $106 doesn't go far.
You probably get a better feel if you just step inside one of these and just look around. Tell you what else is good is to try to read some of the things that are written on the walls.
They had never seen the inside of a jail before. Few questions were asked as they toured in near silence. Yesterday, the group visited the unemployment office. They felt the frustration of waiting in long lines and filling out many forms. The young people were not sympathetic to the people they saw standing in line to collect their checks.
He wasn't talking about how hard he was trying to get a job. Most of them just coming in here for the money. This place is supposed to be trying to get you a job, not supporting you and your family.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Today, their feelings softened as they lunched on beans and rice with welfare mothers, listening to the reasons why they need help to survive.
It's not that they didn't try to go and get a job. It's that they tried, but they couldn't get a job. And that we have to look at that side also.
They say the walk was truly a thrust into reality, a world they want to be ready to handle when they graduate from high school. Most importantly, they learned what they do not want to become.
I don't want to be on welfare, in the unemployment line, or in jail. I have a sort of like a 3-plank plan to make it. I think that the plan will work.
I consider myself very optimistic about the future. Seeing it, it made me realize more that you have to stand behind what you want.
I didn't know what any of it was like, and I was surprised to walk in there and see the things that I saw. Like in the welfare office, I saw people, and the way I thought of them is they didn't want to go out and work. And then I came here today, and I realized that some of them probably have, handicap reasons or something, and it changed my mind totally about it.
Have learned more than most about how bad it is to be unemployed, to be poor. They learned in Detroit in a program that tries to make them think about work by showing them what life can be if they don't have work. Chris Kelly is our guide through the classroom of an unemployment office.
Learn what? I mean, what is there to learn?
On a Detroit unemployment line, you learn about waiting, hoping, and despairing. There's no class for that in Stacy Halperin's suburban school.
I don't see why these people come here and just stand around when they can be out working.
The youngsters, black and white, rich and poor, rubbed shoulders with people who haven't worked in months, with people who worry about cutbacks in their unemployment checks.
I feel sorry if they get unemployment, because you're going to wait for that money. And you don't get enough. What they send for 2 weeks, you can't even live off of it. And Rican cutting down on the aid and everything, crime going to go up.
Yeah, you really struggling like you said you was. You'll accept any job. It don't matter. If they're going to give it to you, you'll take it if you want to work.
The so-called Life Reality program has been operating for about 2 years. Students are placed in it by their parents or school counselors to learn to establish positive goals by seeing the other side of society. They're taken to jails and soup kitchens, welfare offices, and old age homes to come face to face with the harsh realities of life.
I went to prison because it was tight. You know, I couldn't make money, and, well, you know, I started sticking up, you know. But I admit I did wrong, but it's a problem there where, you know, it's just the unemployment situation is so bad that, you know, you don't just give up like I did.
I've worked as a busboy and a dishwasher.
It's not much money, but it's at least you're making some money, right? At least you have a job.
Yeah.
But for some of these kids, the thought of going on welfare, just scraping by, is something they can't imagine.
I've got my own phone, my own bathroom, my own TV, my own stereo. I have everything I need. And so this is all different to me. I don't think I'll end up in a place like this. I hope not.
I think she only sees one side of life, and that's really a very unrealistic side of life.
And program director Jim Tooman believes the only way youngsters can understand this reality is to get exposed to it.
And if you looked in the welfare office and the unemployment office, a whole lot of those people were looking back at you. And I will bet you that a percentage of those people were saying, hey, damn, I wish I had a shot at this. Or damn, these kids have got some time.
So for the youngsters, some of whom need direction, the lesson is time is on your side. Learn to use it. Chris Kelly, CBS News, Detroit.
I just felt hate, like I just know I didn't want to be there, so I just didn't want to be there.
Marty Bolger just got out of jail. Tomorrow he could be in the unemployment line, or eating in a soup kitchen, or filling out welfare forms. He is 17 years old, and for the past 2 years, experiences like these have been part of his life. For Marty is a participant in a unique educational program called Dialogue.
We're talking about choices now. We're talking about simply about choices. And every one of you has some choices.
Detroit's Dialogue program is the brainchild of Jim Tooman, a 39-year-old Vietnam vet who believes that reading, writing, and arithmetic aren't enough skills to make it after high school. Although it's only been around for 2 years, the program has already won praise from the media. Tooman designed Dialogue to fill what he sees as a big gap in the educational system.
Sometimes in the classroom, like we're sitting here today, students learn, and it's an intellectual side of education rather than a practical side of education. What we're attempting to do is take some of the intellectual and bring it out into the real world, to teach students and give them an opportunity for them to utilize what they're learning and make it applicable to day-to-day life.
Students from all socioeconomic levels participate in the 30-week program. Some are high achievers, some are marginal. And for those who've managed to tune out completely, Tooman's classroom technique wakes them up in a hurry.
Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. I want to show you. I always get these ideas right in the middle of everything. Most of the students know that I really care about them. But I come on, and I'm very close up, and sometimes I hold them, and I shake them, and I'm touching, but I want to reach further and further and further until they finally say, well, either I don't have the answer or this is the answer. And sometimes it takes like that for a student to say, okay, I'm starting to think.
Before Marty Bolger started the Dialogue program, school was just another place to waste time.
Then Jim Tooman came in, and he started asking me critical questions like, well, what are you going to do after high school? How are you going to do it? and how you're going to pay for what you're going to do. And I had no answers for none of those questions. Now I have answers for practically every question he can bring up.
5 weeks of intensive goal setting is followed by 5 months of field experience, then another 5 weeks of how-to advice. During this time, kids hear outside speakers talk about the pros and cons of their jobs. Plus, they get some common sense advice on survival skills.
Go to the universities, talk to the admissions counselor, the finance counselor. Don't sit back. Go after it yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you. I thought they was going to do it for me. They didn't.
But often, simply hearing someone else's story is not enough. This is where the reality walk comes in, taking the students into situations impossible to recreate in a classroom. 1 week, it's eating a meal with welfare mothers, or sitting in a wheelchair for an hour, or maybe a trip to the supermarket with nutritionist Tim Brolis.
Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to feed a family of 4 on $78. That's the median income according to the Department of Labor as to what is spent each week on food. We're going to be looking for 3 things. We're going to look for the nutrition in food, we're going to be looking for how much quantity you're going to buy, and we're going to be looking for the total balance of all the meals.
After the shopping spree, Tim talks about their purchases.
Are we talking health food or fresh food? What are we talking?
Fresh, healthy food.
Is there anything fanatical about being concerned about what you eat here? No. I mean, just because a person has fruits and vegetables, are they a health nut? I'm asking you.
No.
No.
Some of the experiences on the reality walk aren't as pleasant as shopping.
Anything that I say in a classroom is 1/100th as effective as what they see in a jail or a soup kitchen or learn in a supermarket. Because these are experiences that will never, ever leave them. Long after my words have evaporated, these experiences will stand in the rest of their lives.
My advice for these kids is stay in school, and stay away from that drug, and get, and take life as it comes real slow, Don't be, out there caught up in everything like I was,
How are you going to change your life so you're not here? You want to be another number? You want to be another addition? You want to be 1001 or 1003?
This ain't what it is. I know this ain't.
Just pass. I'm going to pass this step by. That's all.
You're going to pass this step by?
That's right.
How about all of you? You're going to pass this step by?
Yeah.
There are no tests to take on the reality walk or grades for completing the program. The mark of pass or fail comes from what students carry into day-to-day life. Marty's mother talks about the change.
He does more chores than before. He's taking on cleaning the floors. He will suggest things, food that's good for the body, nutritious, food that will last, and saving money. Actually, I've learned a lot from it. It taught me something.
Passing on what you've learned is one of the byproducts of dialogue.
So I'm letting everybody that I know what they can do. All the things they can get out of life and everything like that.
We're hoping that what they see, they will share, and other people will share. And that they'll talk about the fact that they have a plan, and maybe other people will start to say, well, maybe I need a plan.
If dialogue is based on the premise of the world as a classroom, then the reality walk is the textbook. And for students like Marty Bulger, the dialogue program is making access to that world a step to be made with open eyes.
The Department of Social Services is not an unfamiliar sight to some Detroiters who spend days each month here, but 8 high school students were shocked.
When I walked in here, I just went, oh my God, this has startled me. It scared me to see all these people just sitting here. And, I don't know, it gives me the willies.
The 8 students from Detroit and suburban high schools are taking part in what is called a reality walk, sponsored by the public schools and Wayne State University. 4 days of intense experience includes up to 12 miles of hiking on city streets, as well as 2 hours filling out forms for welfare.
We've taken them into the supermarket to have them feed a family of 4 nutritionally on $106 a week. And it's a series of them being able to put their education into practical experience.
Reality Walk is part of a 30-week program involving 400 students from area high schools. The program, called Dialogue, directed by Jim Tooman, has operated successfully for 2 years. Its purpose, to make education more relevant. And as learning experiences go, this one probably won't be forgotten.
When I walked in, I learned my lesson. All it took was walking in. I know I'm going on and make some of myself, because I couldn't come in here and sit down and expect somebody to hand something to me.
I know that I'll work real hard and try not to lose my job and set some goals where I won't end up here.
No one knows the long-range effect of the walk, but educators appear to be interested. Tooman has so far received requests to lead it in Chicago, New York, and an encore in Detroit. About Town, Deborah Conklin, News 4, Detroit.
There's a program in Detroit called Dialogue, and it's just that. It's a serious discussion with teenagers about the problems of getting a job. It makes them think, but more importantly, it makes them act. And it works. Watch. Unemployment has become a reality for many individuals across the country. It's estimated that 1 out of 6 teenagers will face unemployment when they leave high school. However, Greg, Wilhelmina, and Stacy are 3 high school students who are determined not to become unemployment statistics because of Jim Tooman, director of a program called Dialogue, who attempts to scare students smart about their future.
Most students that I have encountered are ill-prepared for the reality of what the world has to offer. We attempt to take students into very hardcore reality situations, very dramatic reality situations. We have picked specific hardcore unemployment offices where they will see reality of life firsthand. Stacy, you ever think you're going to be here on this line? You ever think you're going to be on this line?
No.
What did we talk about this morning? If you had no goals, and you didn't know where you want to be, chances are you might be on this line.
Would you feel like you had a purpose in your life if you knew where you wanted to go?
Along with eye-opening trips to the unemployment office, Jim Tooman and his colleague Linda Limbers work closely with students to help them begin to clarify what they want to do and whether or not they're being realistic.
We're just going to kind of fly around, and then whenever we start getting low on fuel, we're going to find... Most of the kids that come into our program are thinking about, okay, this is great, now what do I do after I get out of high school? And essentially what happens to them during the program is that they realize that there are a lot of options out there, preparing kids for life, not just a degree. I mean, there are a lot of people, you spend 1/3 of your life in your career, 1/3 of your day, every day, going to a job, and if you hate it, that's going to have a great effect on the rest of your life. And I don't think kids realize that. I mean, you spend a lot of hours doing some things that if you hate doing them, you're not going to be a fulfilled person the rest of your life. And we talk about that, talk about balance in your life.
Okay, Linda just spent the last 5 weeks talking about goals with you, talking about fantasies, talking about your dreams, talking about your dreams. You thinking about your dreams now? Don't lose the dreams. Okay, that's all I'm saying to you. All we're going to deal with now is the how-to. The course is broken down into 3 parts. The initial 5-week program is a goals program. It introduces, it sets the stage for the kids to dream intelligently, to look at where they want to be, to get an opportunity to fantasize. Then the next 14 weeks are a how-to. I spend maybe 2 weeks leading into 14 or 15 speakers who come in and talk about what they do from a reality standpoint. It's not enough to work hard. What about the information? What about in here? What about in here between here? What about the information that's going to go in?
Robin wants to be an accountant. What about the fact that
Jim's confrontation tactics force students to come to grips realistically with what it means on all levels to be an accountant or an engineer or a tool and die maker. And these tough love techniques have won him the admiration and affection of each and every student he works with.
Go around them in a working day and be involved in it and see how it is.
How are you going to do it?
I'm going to put in applications.
Where?
Fisher Body.
Who are you going to talk to at Fisher Body?
I don't know. I haven't started that yet.
How much money do you think a tool and die maker makes?
First year with a little bit of overtime, $20,000.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
And he's helped me out personally. He sat down with me, just alone, and just talked to me about what I want to do, what I want to be, and he straightened my life out a lot.
There's a possibility that every one of you can wind up on that line. Will you going to wind up on that line? Why?
Because I have plans.
Tell me about your plan.
Well, I'm going to go to school first.
Okay.
Howard University.
All right, then.
Then I'm a graduate.
Okay.
Okay, after I graduate. Yes, let me look at things as they are. I feel very, very much directed. I kind of hate to say this, I love myself, you know. I really do.
It's hard to predict how successful Tuman students will be in these times of shrinking job opportunities. However, one thing is certain. The unemployment line is at the top of their hate list. The program may be called Dialogue, but after watching Jim Tuman, I would have to call it dedication. In a moment, we'll all go on a shopping spree secondhand, so you better take first.
Willie, Brenda, and Sean are students at Detroit's Northern High School. Sandra, Robin, and Mike attend Western. Like many people their age, they were not sure what they wanted to do when they graduate. Some even planned to drop out. But that was before they were introduced to Jim Tuman and his career seminar called Dialogue, and his intense, direct, demanding teaching style.
Why?
I didn't like being there.
Why?
Because I didn't like it.
Why?
I was out of place. I didn't belong there.
What do you feel inside of you? Inside?
Disappointed at the government for doing this to all these people.
Willie, how'd you feel?
Different.
Different in what sense? Different in what sense?
As far as respecting people that were there.
How?
After long talks with a friend and high school counselor, Jim decided young people need a jolt to start them thinking about the world and their futures in real terms. And he convinced Southwestern High School to let them take a crack at it free of charge.
Some of the things that we experience in an exchange between student and myself, or between student and whoever comes in to speak, is a much more reality type of program than what's being taught in the schools. And there's a necessity for some of these students to have that reality concept.
Jim's dynamic, sometimes intimidating style is modeled after the very successful and much publicized program called Scared Straight, in which prison inmates let juvenile delinquents know in rough terms what it's like inside prison. Jim's aim is to prepare kids for the world outside the classroom.
He comes right up in our face and pounds on the desks and makes us talk to him. And a lot of the students come the first time, and then Jim corners will not come back. They're afraid of him.
He started cornering me right away, and he's asking me what I'm going to be and how I'm going around, how I'm going about learning about what I'm going to be. And he started talking about my future after I get married or if I get married. And he just kept cornering me.
How'd you like the way he works? Is it intimidating? Does it frighten you?
Well, at first I was kind of uncomfortable, because he was forcing me to talk, and I'm not the kind who really like to go around talking. And so I was uncomfortable at first, but...
Was it good for you?
Yeah, I got a lot out of it.
I think that's the only way to reach some of these students. You have to reach inside of them. Their span of attention is not a great span of attention. When you're talking about long-range plans, about futures, about goals, their perspectives are how I'm going to get through tomorrow, how am I going to get through next week, much less worry about how I'm going to get through 2 years. My goal for some of these students is to make them think. If I can even make them think a little bit And even if I can reach maybe the half a dozen students that are in this classroom now and have them walk away and walk out the door come June when they graduate, or walk out the door on an average day and say, maybe this applies to me.
Jim's link to the harsh side of the real world is the unemployment line. He takes small groups of students to this MESC office on Woodward near Claremont and tells them to stand in line. Don't talk, just watch and feel.
That is reality, that no matter what I do in this classroom, no matter what I say, the impact will not be as great as them standing online watching people who have experienced this and who are there online, waiting for their checks, who in many cases have been at Northern High School, Western High School, Southwestern High School. These people had plans, had goals. Some of the students emulated them. You can't bring that into a classroom.
3,000 people weekly wait in these long lines to pick up their unemployment checks, and an additional 750 jobless clients come looking for employment. It was 11:30 when they arrived, the peak of the morning rush hour. Clients had a good hour and a half wait to reach the window and their checks. It's a long, frustrating experience, and tempers flare.
I talked to claims examiners, supervisors, adjudication clerks, everybody. And now y'all tell me, I talk to people down there at the other office, and now y'all telling me I can't have my money.
Back in the classroom, the young people confided their feelings. Willie had seen a friend who graduated last year.
It hurted me because I looked up to her. I liked her a lot. I had respect for everyone else did too.
Do you think she'd be on the unemployment list?
No, I thought she would be President of the United States one day.
You think there's a possibility that someday you'll be there?
No.
Why?
Because I'm determined. I'm just determined, and I don't think the unemployment office or line is for me.
I didn't like it at all. The people, they weren't like normal people. It's like everything. They were cold. They were mad at the world because they didn't have a job.
I was looking around. They'll just look at you like, who are you? What are you doing here? Like, they don't know who you really are, and they make you really feel really out of place.
There's a possibility that someday I'll be there, but...
Does it frighten you?
Yeah, it does. I don't want to be there. I'm out of place over there.
I don't want to see any of you there. Any of you on that line. And the only way that I know how to do this is to have you start to think. Think about where you want to be 2 years from now. Think about where you want to be 3 years from now. 5, 10. You think that's important?
To know where I'm going to be? Yeah.
Yes. Why?
Well, if I'm going to start a family, it's going to be important because if I don't have any money or anything, no goals,
What about you in terms of your career goals?
That's the question, the tough, key question each student is asked over and over again. What is your career goal, and how are you going to get there?
My goals. I want to be a mechanical engineer and go to college and be the best I can.
Where are you going to go to school?
I want to get into Howard or MIT.
What did you get out of his class?
Oh, I got a lot. He actually helped me personally. He had a session with us, and it was really neat. He really made me realize a lot of things about myself I didn't know.
You feel more organized?
Oh, definitely.
What are you going to do with yourself?
Oh, something in the business field.
I got a lot out of it.
You know what you want to do now?
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna get into apprenticeship for an automotive-related engineering.
When I first got out of college, I had spent so many years making up my own career direction. And when I got out of college, I thought, gee, the world is waiting for me. I learned the world wasn't waiting for me. And it was that plummeting, being shot down in flames, that really made me appreciate what they're going through. And so if I can put a little something back now, that's important to me.
What do you want for the future?
I'd like to be able to continue this program. I'd like to be able to involve more people on a wider basis. I'd like to be able to integrate this unemployment concept in just about every school in the Detroit public school system, because I think if students can sense this reality, they will make decisions for themselves.
What do you get out of it?
Well, we talked about this the other day in the car. We were driving back from the unemployment office, and I was telling 3 of the students that I get as much out of this as they feel that they get out of me. I love coming in here. I look forward to it, all the time. And I wouldn't trade some of the experiences, some of the exchange that I've had with these.
It's like keeping a lid on popcorn. You know they can't sit down. If you'll notice, a couple of the students, they cannot relax, they cannot sit down.
Fifth grade teacher Shirley Dudak is describing what she calls the post-Halloween blues, the miserable 2 weeks that most teachers put in until their students' trick-or-treat loot is gone.
If you're having foods that have a lot of sugar in it, that's empty calories, but that's, do we need that? No. Isn't that like wasted money? So if you could drop...
This year, her students discussed sugar and diet with nutritionist Tim Brolis, then conducted an experiment. Half the class ate the Halloween candy, the other half didn't, and they kept a log of their moods, energy, and attitudes.
The kids that were off the sugar for the 2 days had more energy throughout the day, had a greater attention span, and felt better at the end of the day, whereas the kids that had all of the candy were hyper, and I talked to some of the teachers, were just unbearable to work with. And so we see a definite correlation between sugar pumping you up and the absence just making you act like a normal person.
Mrs. Dudak notes that the post-Halloween blues occur at other times of the year. In fact, any holiday connected with candy. She and Tim Brolis suggest that you consider other alternatives to a chocolate bunny this Easter, perhaps fruit or nuts, or a coupon to a movie or skating. Let the kids get involved and make the choice. Nancy McCauley, TV2 Eyewitness News in Harrison Township.
Program called Dialogue, probably one of the most important programs for young people to come along in a long time. Linda, welcome to Sunday in Detroit.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So, Dialogue is really special in that it approaches what is critical for young people in a little different way than we're accustomed to. What is Dialogue? What does it do? What does it try to do?
Well, it takes us out of the classroom a little bit. We found that a lot of the people that are getting out of high school today had no idea where they wanted to go. And even if they didn't know where they wanted to go, they didn't know how to go about it. And they looked at jobs in only the good light, where if they knew a nurse that really loved being a nurse, that's all they knew was all the great things that there were about that kind of job. And we found a lot of people that were very disappointed once they got into it. And I heard somewhere along the way that there are like 80% of the people that graduate from college 10 years down the road are in a job different from what they graduated in. And that's a lot of money to put into an education and end up, you know, a few years later in something else, when maybe if you found out ahead of time you could be in exactly the kind of job you want. And if not, I mean, there's no crime in changing jobs, but that's a long time, 4 years and a lot of money.
You work with high school kids.
Right.
Do most kids, young people, know what they want to do? Do they have a good idea of what they want to do with their life in terms of a job or a career?
Well, when we first started, we found there were a lot of kids that dropped out of the program, and we looked at it and tried to find out why, because we felt like what we were doing was really good. And we found out that the reason why was a lot of kids were saying, great, you're going to show me how I can be a doctor, but I don't know what I want to do. And we did find that that was an extremely high number of children in high school had no idea what they wanted to do. And that's how I really got involved, because I work for a company called Growth and Goals. And we teach people how to set and achieve goals. And Jim said, Jim Tuman, who is the founder of the program, said that's what my kids need. And that's how I got involved in the program. So the first 5 weeks of our program is actually a goals class on how to set and then achieve a goal that you have set for yourself.
What are some of the things you do all along the way in Dialogue to help young people decide or know what...
We have a lot of fun, and we really enjoy what we do, but it's a lot of the kids say, hey, you snuck up on us and taught us something. And we really, that's kind of the impression that a lot of kids get, because we do a lot of moving out of the, we're not in a classroom situation a lot, but we bring in people that want to talk about their jobs, the good and the bad side of their jobs. We take them down to the MESC, and we've seen you before there, I'm sure, and we show them what it's like to have to stand in line all day sometimes to get a check that's really not what you want to be making. We make them go through the filling out of papers for welfare or for ADC, and show them, you know, pages and pages of forms that you have to go through, and, you know, how it's not really the nicest thing to have to stand in lines and have to see, you know, that you aren't doing what you want to be doing with your life.
So what are you saying then? Make some decisions about where you want to go?
Right.
do something, and the chances are greater that you can avoid that situation.
Right, because a lot of people, if you go and talk to somebody, if you're interested in a job, talk to somebody that is in that field already. Ask them what they love about their job, but also, more important than that, I think, is to ask them also what they don't like about their job. And if you're willing to put up with those things, those awful things and the bad hours or the long time it takes to become whatever it is, if you're willing to still put up with all those things, then fine, go for it. We're not trying to tell people they shouldn't be what they want to be just because the job market's bad or anything, but if you're willing to put up with the fact that there are only 2 jobs opening every 5 years, and you say, I don't care, I'm going to work for that, then you can make it. But you have to know those kinds of things ahead of time, because there are millions of people that are looking for one job.
What would you tell parents? We're going to give a number in just a moment where people can get a little more information on the Dialogue program. But not everyone can be a part of Dialogue. What would you suggest to parents that they might do with their young people?
Well, I would suggest that they talk to their high school kids and ask them what they want to do. You know, several things, not just one, because a lot of people aren't ready to make that kind of decision. And then also, after they've talked about what they want to do, then see if they can get them in touch with a person in that field, and ask them some questions, some really personal questions about how long did it take you, what things do you like, what don't you like, what are your hours like, what's the pay like, what do you like about the people, all the goods and the ins and outs, goods and bads of a job, and maybe even spend some time. Do volunteer work in the hospital if you're interested in medicine, or spend a little time just volunteering to work with that person. Spend a day
But become aware, get involved.
Yes.
Linda, we're going to have to ask you back for part 2.
Okay.
We've just started. I want to give our viewers the number. The number is 577-3451 if you want to find out about Dialogue. We'll ask you back.
Okay, thanks.
Amalia?
Thank you very much, Don.
As a principal, you see a lot of children come and go, and what do you think this particular program offers kids that's important that they don't have without it?
Well, the big difference, I guess, is that we within the education profession, generally we have somewhat a sterile world. We come to an institution, we operate within a classroom, and we try to make the youngsters aware of what is going on, but at the same time we kind of separated them from really what it is. You know, it's not quite like it was probably when I might have been a kid, and even before then, when you actually learn from your parents what the profession or the trade was actually like. We have to kind of tell the kids what it's like, and then hopefully that they will explore or learn about it later. And I think that's the big difference. You know, I could tell a young man maybe what it's like to be a state trooper, but only a state trooper can really tell him what it's really like. And then you have to give him an opportunity probably to walk in that fellow's shoes to really find out what it's like. And many times, I think it's a little bit too expansive for us to really try to cover all the professions or cover all the reality. And so we have to have that kind of assistance from other institutions, from other individuals, to help expose our youngsters to what is out there in the real world.
Now, do you
2,800 students who in 1982-83 would lose some part or all of their financial aid due to the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. In terms of money, that could amount to nearly $5 million.
In January, tuition went from $56 to $83 per credit hour, and grants only cover up to 12 hours.
It helps a lot as far as, you know, picking up book expenses, buying gas for my car and things of that nature.
Could you go to school without it?
No.
We can work if we could find a job, but as you know, the job situation is also very tight.
If you had to, could you find an alternative to financial aid and be able to go to college?
not go to college full-time.
David Stockman, President Reagan's man in the Office of Management and Budget, is talking about slashing 1983 student financial assistance to a tune that will mean the loss of $14 million at WSU alone, affecting 45% of the students who presently receive it and make recipients pay as they go.
At a loan rate of 14%, and you start paying that loan back 60 days after you've signed the note while you're in school. Could you and I have done that?
Woody Willis, TV2 Eyewitness.
Key Punch seems to be on the way out, and word processing will be the more marketable skill for the future.
The program to retrain is sponsored by the City of Detroit and is federally funded. Here, laid-off auto workers, secretaries, and police officers are being retrained in an industry with a big growth potential.
We know that Detroit, even though manufacturing will not be as important as it was in the future, will definitely be a service and a financial center. And service and financial industries are going to have as their core computer applications, and they're going to need computer-trained personnel.
Analysts say the computer industry may be the industry for the next 3 decades for use in science, engineering, and business. Thousands of jobless Detroiters with minimal skills could find employment in computer science, but there are other good possibilities. This is one of the biggest complexes of its kind in the entire Midwest. It features the Wayne State University School of Medicine, the Wayne State University Health Center, and Detroit Receiving Hospital. Right in the center of the city is one of the country's fastest growing industries, medicine.
Just because I say medical, it doesn't mean I'm only talking about doctors and nurses. They hire clerical people, they hire skilled people, and these are some of the things that you have to start thinking about when you're out there looking for a job.
Like computers, the health field is wide open. Growth is faster than average, and salaries range from $10,000 per year up to $100,000 and even more. But again, it means those now out of work must be retrained.
I feel that you have to get some type of marketable skills to be employable out here in this society.
I think that what we need to do is to be able to find these programs and find the people to fit into these programs. I think the problem is people don't even know about it until they see programs like this on TV.
Tomorrow, another look at how to get back in the job market. Bob Bennett, News 4 Detroit.
The last class in here took early Canadian poetry. The next one's about to get a shock. They're going to find out what life is like on the outside.
Okay, dead silence. Look at that clock.
Like a drill sergeant, Jim Tooman is telling his class to think about time in a way they've never thought about it before. Tooman is a social scientist, and he talks tough. It's his way of getting students to think about life after school. He wants to scare them smart.
How would you like to do another 5,400,000 of these of something that you hate? How would you feel? Useless? Okay.
Jim Tooman is from Detroit. We've asked him to apply his shock tactics to this high school class in Toronto.
How would you feel? I'd have to do something. You'd have to do something. What about if you went if you worked in a radio station and you went to be a disc jockey and you said, hey, listen, walked up to a disc jockey and said, I'd like to know what you do. I'm willing to come in here and make $2.60 an hour. I'm willing to come in here and make $2.60 an hour. I want to learn what you do. You got a job?
They want me to get lost.
Maybe, and maybe not.
They won't want me to be there if I don't know nothing about it.
A lot of people would be more impressed if you walked in and said, I really want this. I really want this. But tell me what kinds of chefs there are. There are chefs for airlines, there are chefs.
Tooman teaches the students to ask themselves exactly what they want out of life, to set themselves goals now.
A lot of the questions that we're asking now, at some point you're going to ask yourself. And it's important that you ask them now while you have the time to be able to, take the direction and take the bull by the horns so that you can make some decisions as opposed to waiting until it's thrust upon you.
Tooman says it brings reality to the classroom, a reality that includes a trip to an unemployment officer to see what jobs are available.
Well, I would have liked her to talk to me a little bit more, right? Described a bit more.
Another reality is that 1 in 6 with nothing more than a high school diploma is unemployed.
She asked me for construction, and I have no experience, right? So she offered me landscaping, so I took that.
Tuman's class learns that without training, you can't afford to be choosy.
Just plain factory works. Plain factory work and low-paying jobs.
We need sandwiches. Next, they're sent out to buy a week's groceries for a family of 4.
To the Scared Smart team, this is a classroom too. It's reality, the place where we all have to face the bottom line of survival.
They have a budget of $81. Ottawa says that's the borderline figure for a family of 4.
Do you have shampoo? We don't need shampoo. Yes, we do.
No, you don't. The $81 is meant for food.
Diapers.
She don't need
Diapers.
She's toilet change.
Well, too bad. She's a baby. They'll class her as a baby.
And you can't eat diapers. Here's where they learn there's more to food than lip service.
I think we went over.
After the checkout, the checkover from Tuman's aide, Tim Brolis.
First and most important thing you failed to do is you forgot to read the labels, okay? Based on the fact that what you want to do is get the freshest food available with the least amount of processing, with the least amount of sugar, with the least amount of foods added to it that don't belong in that food, you didn't do so great.
No,
What's wrong? You put back fresh potatoes instead of this. You should have put this back.
Still, they get a good mark.
On the whole, they did really great for a bunch of kids, better than most adults do.
Time to turn the tables. How does the class grade this dose of reality?
For me, it didn't do nothing because I already know what I'm gonna do, right? But what they were saying made a lot of sense. Like, if you screw up on one thing, you got something to fall back on, right?
The part that we had in the supermarket was useful in some ways. Because for the amount of money that you gave us, it was good to see what we did right and what we did wrong.
You have to have shocks to get you to think clearly or waking you up or whatever.
Tuman's program also went over well with teacher Eleanor Yunkin and principal Art Dory.
For students that are low motivation, low aspirations, I think it's a great program. Most of the students, I don't think, responded with the sort of expected way because it's their first exposure to it.
The approach of going beyond the school, I believe, is excellent. They need this. They need to get out. They need to see.
If you want to help kids see the Scared Smart way in your community, write us. Jim Tuman has agreed to help. And for starters, we'll send you his Scare 'em Yourself kit.
To say that Jim Tuman operates his dialogue program on a shoestring budget is a bit of an overstatement. He needs all the help that he can get. He also needs help from speakers in the community who'd like to donate their time. So if you have an interest in dialogue or would like to see it get into your child's school, give me a call here at TV2 and I'll put you in touch with Jim. Don't go away. We'll be back with more PM Magazine Detroit.
Baby もよろしく。悪霊とヌエの泣く夜は恐ろしい。
昭和の初め、1本5円もするうまい酒があった。幻の名酒。今松竹梅を買うと当たります。
さらに懐かしの玩具を漏れなく。
今オフィスにファクシミリゼーション、新登場ミニファクス。ファクシミリ専用のネットワークを使って東京大阪間を50円で結びました。電電公社のミニファクス。
扶養グループの提供でお送りします。
Good morning 新しい太陽の誕生日いい日曜日の生まれたて川のその花も目覚めたか鳥たちも馬たちも目覚めたか赤ちゃんもおばさんも機嫌よく先生や友達も機嫌よく新しい太陽の誕生日いい日曜日の生まれたて Good morning
扶養グループです。
安らぎを見つけて君は笑う大空の下で大地の上で君は
走り出すと全てが変わるしっかりと大地を蹴る光の強さ空気の匂い風の優しさを知るもっとスポーツコミュニケーション丸紅日例です。
If you knew that I was on the other side of the door, was going to grab your throat and tackle you and drag you down here, would you open up that door? No. You'd be stupid to do that, right? But that's the same thing that you're doing without having the knowledge to make some choices. You want to be a cruise director? That's great. Do you understand? It's not enough. Same thing she's going to do. Going to walk up with a sign, I'm an attorney. You're going to walk up with a sign, I'm a disc jockey. How? What happens if you go through 7 years of law school and you come out and all of a sudden you find out that being a lawyer is not what you thought it was?
ミシガン州のデトロイト市自動車王国アメリカを支えてきた町も工場の一時閉鎖で失業率は全米平均の2倍に上る。アル中麻薬強盗殺人20分に1人が殺され3分に1人が傷つけられるというアメリカでもここは極めつけのアウトローの町だ。ダウンタウンの中心部から逃げ出す白人そして取り残された黒人偉大なアメリカの夢は終わったのであろうか。デトロイトの失業問題は深刻だ。白人は6人に1人黒人は4人に1人仕事がない。仕事をよこせ、パンをよこせ。10年ぶりのデモに2万人もの人が集まる。ジム・チューマン38歳。暴力、失業、貧困の街デトロイトでソーシャルワーカーをしている。ジムはダイアローグプログラムというユニークな実験教育をここデトロイトで実践している。仲間は8人、それに医者、弁護士などボランティア20人。彼は2年前仲間に呼びかけた。今のアメリカはケイオスそのものだ。目標がない。学校も同じだ。 高校生は自分が将来どういう仕事をしたいのか、そのためにはどうすればいいのか全くわからない。資金は$6000、ジムのポケットマネーと寄付で賄う。不安、孤独、アルコール、麻薬、校内暴力。教育に現実を持ち込め、これを合言葉にジムのプログラムはスタートした。
What about putting down a list of questions? A, B, C, D. Putting down a list of questions and saying, this is what I need to ask you. These are the answers that I need to get before I can make an intelligent choice. It's the same thing with law school. What do you think a TV cameraman makes?
トム、16歳、高校2年。テレビカメラマン志望。
What do you think a TV cameraman makes when he starts out? I think that's important for you to know. I think it's important just from a basic economic standpoint for you to know how much money you need to live on. And does a TV cameraman make enough for you to live on?
Yeah, I think he would.
You think, do you know?
No, I don't know yet. That's why I'm gonna go to school and learn and find out.
School and learn? I don't know any social studies teacher in the country that can tell you what a TV cameraman makes. You want to get on the phone after this and we'll call up 85, so then we'll hang up on us. The other half of them will laugh and say, what is this, candid camera? They would love it if you would call up. Maybe you'll get turned down 5 times. Maybe they'll say, oh, this kid's bothering me again. He's driving me crazy. But maybe you'll find one person that's willing to say, hey, Tom, why don't you come with me? Why don't you stand around, watch what I do every day? Greg, what do you want to do?
I want to become by going to school.
How? What school?
ディスクジョッキーに憧れるグレッグ、16歳。
All I need is $2,000. I can start my own business doing disc jockey.
Doing disc jockey what? How are you going to build up a name for yourself?
You work with a small company.
What company?
A disc jockey company, like Richards Enterprises or something.
Do you want to be making 14 big ones, or do you want to be making 400 big ones?
400.
How?
Getting all the education that I could possibly need, all the requirements. I got to meet the requirements.
I'm hearing education, education, education.
By trying to get a good name for myself.
Okay.
Put my name, even if it has to mean putting my name on a billboard.
Good.